Let the record reflect we have a quorum to conduct tonight's meeting. First item on the agenda is the minutes of the regular meeting of June 28th, 2018. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
I do have a second.
Second.
Any comments?
Nope.
Okay. All those in favor of approval of the minutes, please indicate by raising your hand. Unanimous, thank you. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business, acceptance of a bid for the 2018 resurfacing improvements and approval to enter into a contract.
Thank you. So the bids were tabulated. The apparent low bidder was a company by the name of Baumgartner. Their bid came in at $643,000 and some change, which unfortunately it was about 5% over our engineer's estimate. So it was a little bit out of our budget. So we are working with Baumgartner on reducing some quantities with potential cost savings to bring it back into budget. So what I'm asking for this board is just approval to enter into these negotiations, get the amount back into budget, and enter into that contract so we can get these projects completed.
I guess I'm a little unclear. Are you wanting approval to enter into the negotiations, or do you want approval of the contract pending negotiation?
Approval of contract pending negotiation.
Is there any concern from legal on this? I mean, okay.
Approval of contract pending negotiations?
How can there be such a disparity in the bids?
What do you mean?
And they're significantly lower than everybody else.
Is
their bid, the bondsman, I mean, are they?
It could be they've got a better deal from a supplier. Their unit prices were just a lot better because the quantities are the same across the board. So it could just be they have a better deal from a supplier. But you're right, the bids that we opened the last meeting were all over the board.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're having to enter into some negotiations to try to reduce quantities to get it back into budget and closer to our engineer's estimate.
But typically, when it's that far off, the bondsmen usually are leery of a low bid. Or When
we had talked to Baumgartner before this meeting to just give them a heads up that they were apparent low bidder, they stood by their pricing.
Okay. It's,
Yeah. I know. I understand and we will make sure that everything with the city's protected under their contract. So, yeah, it was all over the board. And like I said, unfortunately, it was about 5% over what our engineers had estimated on the project. So
it's not out of line from the engineering
right.
perspective.
It's within a reasonable margin of error, I would say, is a fair assumption, which is why we are entering into negotiations to try to reduce our quantities that were called for in the bid to bring it back more in line with what our budget and our engineer's estimate was.
And the big difference then was when they were factoring in the material cost. Where you
Yeah, because the quantities are the same across the board. It's the material cost of each individual contractor that's bidding on it.
And it's the same material.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So how does when the engineer comes up with the price or an idea, why is the lowest bid even 5% over?
Well, and so the engineers pull from a lot of areas. They are looking at historical bids for the city, so they're looking at the bids we received last time, but they're also looking at like what NDOT's suggested bid rates are and things like that. So it could be any number of factors, but Baumgartner their numbers were within 5%. It's just they were higher than what our engineer had recommended as an acceptable budget. So, but I think Baumgartner is a willing partner to come in and negotiate those quantities so we get them down more in line with our budget.
Regardless, they're still the low bid.
Yes, and they had all their documents, they had the performance bond, everything was in line, their references checked out. They're good to go. It's just we need to bring it down to what we can afford, if you will.
Obviously, not sacrificing quality, of course.
No, absolutely
Markers
not, I
going with the
think.
Same materials.
Yeah, one of the things that they really shoot high on, for instance, is the amount of HMA surface. They usually call for 9 inches. Typical industry standards closer to 6 inches, right? So that's where we can realize some savings, is reducing the 9-inch quantity down to 6 inches. I mean, it's what, like a 30% savings right there, so.
As long as we're not shortening the life by 30%, I mean.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, there are no concerns there, for sure.
And it does sound, nothing Bill has said that they're not responsive or responsible, so.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Any further questions?
No.
So it's not necessarily the low bid that we're looking at, so they scored out on all the other factors that were.
Yeah, not only were they the lowest, but they were also deemed the most responsive as well, because you have to look at the whole package. So did they have all their paperwork in line? Yes, and then they also had the price that was the lowest. So they are the lowest and most responsive bidder.
No further questions. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve,
Do I have a second? Second, okay.
pending
other-
negotiations,
What's that?
pending
Pending
negotiations.
negotiation, correct. Approval of pending,
Yep.
approval of the contract pending negotiations.
And hopefully in the next meeting, I'll give you an update to let you know where we landed. So you all will be in the know,
Okay.
so to speak.
We're just looking at 5%.
Yeah. Give or take, yeah.
Any concerns again from legal? Nothing there?
No.
Okay.
Lowest responsive.
All right, I have a first and second. All those in favor of approval of accepting the bid for the 2018 resurfacing project pending negotiation, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is new business. Item A, Resolution 11, 2018, approving stormwater policies and penalties. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
So we were recently audited by IDEM as part of a normal MS4 audit, which is our municipal separate storm sewer system permit that's issued through IDEM. There were some deficiencies with our program, and these first 2 policies are the ones that they wanted immediate action on. So the first one that you have in front of you, it's 2018-0001, I think. It concerns official adoption of Marion County, City of Indianapolis stormwater standards and specifications. We look at it as being a good thing on a couple levels. One, there's already these standards and specs that meet IDEM and their requirements out there that's already been drafted. And secondly, we're part of the city of Indianapolis, albeit we're an excluded city, but developers do appreciate having common standards coming into the communities they're working in. So we felt like that was an acceptable course of action to just adopt their standards and specs.
Technically speaking, we are part of the Indianapolis stormwater system anyway.
It is
so
true, yes.
Regardless whether we're an excluded city or not, we
Yep.
fall into that category, so.
Yeah, technically, yeah.
Okay. All right. Item A, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve?
Second,
Second.
do you guys have any comments or questions?
Yeah, this brings us in, so we qualify, because we had to come up to standards for our stormwater. Does that have anything to do with?
That's different. Like this, it's water quality focused, but more or less these are standards for how people have to build out the system. Yeah.
Okay.
So like on a new development, like police station going in, they're going to have to meet the water quality standards, stormwater standards for their infrastructure when they put it in.
Okay.
And their plans will be reviewed against these standards.
Okay, and it's just the same as
Yep.
Marion County, and, I mean, that
When you
makes
say, when you say stormwater, are you also talking about runoff? Or are you talking about SWEP plans, Rule 5, all of that during?
All of that,
construction as
yep.
well?
When I use stormwater as just that all-encompassing term.
Okay.
So that's with fines and all of that,
Yeah, the White River Stormwater Alliance put together standards, gosh, tell me, what, 5, 6, 7 years ago?
It's been a
and
bit,
we're really
yeah.
trying to educate a lot of contractors and construction companies around the state. There is no stormwater, for lack of a better term, organization within the state recognized other than this organization.
Yes, the White River Alliance.
We're really trying to get with everybody to protect, and keep in mind, we are on top of one of the biggest natural aquifers in the state. So they're trying to protect all the natural water systems within the state, this being one of them. So, yeah, it's a big deal, and they are really hammering the state and trying to get legislation passed. So, yeah, they're making it mandatory for most municipalities.
So the enforcement of the fines that were in all of that, that would be under your
Yes, yeah, it would come through our building inspector, who kind of wears a couple different hats. He's also our environmental inspector, so he's checking, make sure that erosion control, everything like that's in place. And then the second memo, so that kind of segues into the second policy document, if you will. It provides a fine schedule for people found in violation. Which we feel, I think that's pretty standard across the board. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about that, but that was another IDEM concern as a result of the audit, is that we didn't have a formalized enforcement process, and that's what this document's meant to do, is to adopt that process.
So does this supersede IDEM's enforcement policy, because they have fines and fees as well?
No, it would be in conjunction with, I mean, IDEM can still come out and fine if they want to.
Okay.
Now, they typically, they don't like doing that in a MS4 community. They would like the MS4 community to step up and do, you know, their part. But IDEM still would have the ability to come out.
and you would have to notify them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Any further questions for Mr. Anthony?
Now, and would those then come to the board, those fines?
Only if they appeal them,
Only if they appeal it.
correct.
Nope.
You good? Okay. Anything from legal? No. I have a first and second on Resolution 11, 2018. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Anthony.
Thank you.
Item B, approval of a vehicle lease agreement between Lawrence Police Department Explorer Post 160 INC and the City of Lawrence, Indiana Police Department. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening.
How are you, sir? Let me go ahead and get a first and second on this. I'll entertain a motion to approve item B.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Okay, do you guys have any questions or comments for the chief?
I have a question.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, two questions. Exactly who is or who manages the Explorer Post 160?
Right now, it's our reserve officer, Paul Lucian.
Okay, so that is him then. Okay. And the vehicle,
Yes.
it wasn't listed. It said, it references,
I noticed the Schedule A was blank. It is a 2012 Ford Econoline 350 XLT passenger van, 12-passenger.
okay.
It's got 40,039 miles on it, donated by Capital City Ford. I do have pictures of it, or if you like, when you leave tonight, it's parked right out here.
Okay, okay.
Sharp-looking silver side entry passenger van.
And I take, this is just to really transport
Yes,
the Explorers.
Drivers licensed Explorers over the age of 21, or 21 or older.
But I mean, as far as the use of it, the use is going to be used to,
For the Explorers.
Yeah.
And there are many activities when they travel to various events and help out the police department.
okay,
Okay. Any other questions?
no.
It's a fair lease at $1.
Can't argue with the price.
No further questions? Anything from legal?
No.
I'll get it right, all right. No further questions. All those in favor of approval of item B, please indicate by raising your hand. Unanimous. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
And last item under new business is appeal of fines with Stout Heating and Cooling. Someone here from Stout wish to speak? Good evening, sir. Could you state your name and affiliation for the record, please?
My name's Anthony Stout. I'm the owner of Stout Heating and Cooling.
Right.
Kind of nervous, but that's,
Don't be nervous. Nothing to be nervous about.
before I get into the letter you guys sent me, I'm a 15-year military vet, so I understand protocol and procedures. When I first started running my company, I knew then, not being a licensed contractor, especially in Marion County and Lawrence, I didn't do it. I do home warranty. I do 90% of my work comes from home warranties. And this map, I can give it to you guys. The inside map is Marion County. That's where I did not do work. Outside of Marion County is where all my work came from. Again, I know not to come into Marion County or Lawrence without being licensed. This first incident on let me get it here. January 4, 2017 at 11:46. I had an employee working in Lawrence off the clock. I didn't even know about it. I didn't know about it until the next day when I pulled GPS because he told me he was supposed to be at a doctor's appointment. I pulled the GPS. I said, "What was you doing in Lawrence?" Then he came the next day. He told me, he said, "I'm going to be honest with you. I was in Lawrence doing a side job in your truck, and I got caught by Lawrence." I said, "You know, I don't work in Lawrence. You're not a licensed contractor. I don't do it." I fired him out there on the spot. He told me that the code guy went ahead and let him finish the job. He was replacing a blower motor. So I at that time, didn't know that there was supposed to be any follow-up for the code violation. I know that I called and say, "Hey, there's a stop work order. What needs to be done?" "Well, you got to be a licensed contractor." I said, "All right, I'm not a licensed contractor. I don't work in Lawrence, so this is one of my guys." I fired him. So October of 2017 is when I got my license. Started off in Marion County. November, I got the bond and everything to come down in Lawrence to finish, to start the process of getting licensed here in Lawrence. I got sick. I was fighting colon cancer. And I have the copy of that here. This is the new bond. That's the one I brought down here last one. The old bond was dated November. When I got sick, I started the process of getting legal. And here it is. That's the first one, 7th November 2017. And that's June of 2018. So I had started it, but didn't get to finish it because I got sick with cancer.
Okay.
Then between November until June, business and everything was starting to pick back up. I got approved to October of 2017 on that map. It opened up Marion County and the whole outer area, so I just got 2 times as busy as what I was the year before. This next incident that happened in June, there's a home warranty. They ship the equipment. I was expecting it was going to be 5 to 7 days that we got the equipment. We got the equipment that morning of June 5th. I knew that I needed to come down here and submit documents, bond, and everything to get legal here in Lawrence. The customer, I sympathize with her. She was in stage 3 cancer, fighting chemo. She needed some AC. Right or wrong, yes, it was wrong for me to do that job without having a proper licensing, but I was only trying to give her some comfort. I sent my guys to go do it. Your code guy called him on the spot, put a stop work order, took pictures of the van and everything, called me, and after talking to the customer, the code guy had some sympathy towards her. They told us go ahead and do the job. By the end of the day, I was already down here finding out what I needed to do. Went back to my shop, came back again, presented the bond that I had in November of 2017. They told me, that's not going to work. You're going to have to get a new bond. Okay? To the insurance that day, I came back the next day with all the documents, paid the fines, and everything else. All I've asked is, yeah, I was wrong for doing that job without being licensed in Lawrence. But with me being a cancer patient, and I was only trying to provide comfort for her, I'm asking the board to have a little sympathy, and I want to appeal the fines.
Let me ask you a couple questions. Do you recognize that we are an excluded city in Speedway, Southport, and help me out, Cumberland are also excluded cities, and I believe you have to be licensed in those. Just because it's in Marion County doesn't mean you're exempt from working in those areas. So,
Since then, I've already went to Southport, Homecroft, Speedway. We got Lawrence, Beech Grove, and also Lebanon.
And I think we also have to recognize that we're not in the business to discourage people from working in Lawrence. We want it done right.
Absolutely.
I think I speak for everyone on this board. We've seen many people come before this board previous to us, and we'll see many people come after us. We don't want shoddy work, and we don't want our residents being taken advantage of.
Right.
I will take this opportunity to let you guys ask any questions you would like to. Following that, if Mr. Anthony, you have any recommendations from the city, you did send us one, I believe, through an email, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask.
Just a clarification, we waived $2,500, the $2,500 fine, if I read everything correct, for one of the initial fines was already waived for $2,500, the way I'm reading this. Am I not reading this correctly? There's a $500 fine, and that's what we're in question here?
Can you clarify that, Bill, for us real quick, please? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So typically on first-time offenders, we do waive the permit fine. So you have 2 separate issues here. You had an unlicensed contractor, you had unpermitted work. So you had 2 separate fines. You had an added layer because we had a stop work order that was still active from the January incident or whatever the case may be. So technically they were working over a stop work order, which is then subject to a $2,500 fine. So you had a $2,500 fine that could have been in play. You had a working without a permit fine, which is 5 times the cost of the permit that could have been in play. and then you have the $500 fine for working without a license. We usually just do the one. If it's an unlicensed contractor, the first time is the $500 working without a license fine, and then we administratively waive the 5 times working without a permit fine. And in this case, we waived the $2,500 working over a stop work order fine.
So 500 is what we're discussing right now.
Yes, that's the only fine that was imposed.
Okay. And is he currently legal, bonded,
As
licensed?
far as I know, yeah, he's got an active license, he's got the bond, he got all his paperwork correctly, and he did so quickly. I mean, yeah, so he was rather quick in getting it resolved when it came to his attention.
To your best knowledge, does his story corroborate with what you remember happening?
I wasn't aware of the medical issues. The other issues, though, what he's saying is, from my understanding and communications with staff and researching the issue prior to giving you the memo, it does corroborate with everything I've been told.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
I do. You say you paid the fine. You paid the fine for the second?
Incident, to get the job completed, the office staff told me I had to pay the fine and get my license at the same time.
Okay, so you got the license and you were fined for not having the permit, basically. So they waived the fine for the licensing and the bond, is that?
He was fined for not having the license, $500 flat fee.
Oh, okay.
Or flat fine for working without a license. The 5 times the cost of the permit is for working without a permit.
Oh, okay.
And that's in addition to the cost of the permit.
So that 500 that you just speak of, that's what we're referring to tonight, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
On the
that's-
first issue, he paid or however you look at it, he paid 1. He was assessed 2
Well,
fines.
he could have been assessed multiple fines, but we only imposed the 1 fine, the $500 working without a license fine.
Right.
And then on the first stop work order, that was a working without a license situation again. And we consider it resolved by him getting his license now and paying the $500 fine.
Okay. I guess I'm confused then. He says he paid a fine.
He did. So we have to process the payment to release to process the payment to release the permit, we have to process the fine when the fine's attached to it. And then it's up to this board, depending on what your decision here is tonight, if you decide like a fine is waived, then we will have to execute a refund in the amount of the fine back to Mr. Stout here.
Okay, okay,
It's $500.
Which would be the $500 fine.
okay.
Thank you for clarifying.
Okay.
Yeah. Gets a little cumbersome sometimes.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions by this board?
I don't think so.
I'm going to do, how do you want to do this? I don't. I want to do a roll call vote.
Yeah, we can do that.
I'm going to do a roll call vote on this.
To appeal to,
To either overturn or approve, how do I want to do that? I guess return or uphold the appeal. Is that what I'm wanting to do?
we probably have to have a motion.
Yeah.
We need a motion
Yeah,
and
I'll-
a second.
Motion
Motion to uphold the fine,
or a
motion.
For the
to-
purpose of the vote, I'll have to have a
Overturn.
motion, whether it's to uphold or return the fine. So I'll entertain a motion to uphold or return the fine at this point. So I'll entertain a motion for that. Either one of you care to make that motion? This is just for the voting purposes. It doesn't mean that we've chosen one way or the other. It's just to get us to the voting process.
Okay, all right, yeah, right. So I make a motion to uphold,
Or return the funds for the fine.
do we need, okay,
And then, at which point, then we'll go to a yes/no vote. Do you wish to proceed with returning or uphold the fine? Okay.
Motion to,
The motion to vote on it,
Vote.
okay, yeah, I think that's
motion
probably
to
the best way.
vote either uphold or
Yeah.
return
So I have a motion. Do I have a second? Mark, would you wish to motion, second motion?
Second.
Okay. All right, we got that part out of
So
the
the
way.
motion is to uphold or,
Basically to vote.
It would be one or the other, correct? 'Cause
Vote.
we're voting yes or no,
Correct,
so.
exactly. To vote on either upholding or returning the fines. Does that make sense? It's a little cumbersome, I apologize.
Shouldn't it just be a motion to uphold
I think so.
or a separate motion to
Yeah.
refund?
Yes.
Because it could be an either vote. It could be an either or vote. It could be a yes, I want to.
That's what a yes or no is.
If you say, if the motion is to uphold or return the fine, and I vote, or
I see.
a member says yes, then you're,
Which am I saying?
it's
Yes.
either or both, yeah.
Okay. Let's retract that motion and do over. I will entertain a motion to uphold the appeal. How's that? Okay, I'll
Make a
entertain a motion
motion.
to uphold the appeal. The appeal.
To uphold the appeal.
Uphold appeal
Fine.
means to return the fine.
To uphold means return the fine, correct?
Okay, now,
so I think, it sounds like what,
No, that's not the right wording, I don't,
yeah, I think if you're upholding the fine,
and we're not,
then we're not
Should be
returning
maybe a motion to grant
the grant,
the appeal.
yeah.
Maybe that's it. Maybe uphold's the wrong word.
Yep.
We don't do this a lot. Sorry,
Motion to grant the appeal,
the appeal.
the fine.
All right, let's do it that way.
Okay, so who's making that?
make the motion to grant
The
the
appeal,
appeal.
The $500 fine.
correct.
grant the appeal.
Do I have a second on that motion?
No.
You don't, okay.
Well, we're not voting, you're
We're
just,
not voting.
we're just bringing it to the
motion to
table. That's what
vote.
the motion does.
So do you second that?
Yeah.
Okay. So any further comments you would wish to make to this board prior to the vote?
No.
I think everything is on the table.
So by voting yes, we will be accepting his appeal, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So by voting yes, we will be returning the $500. By voting no, we will not. We will uphold the fines. Okay? So you want to do a roll call on that? Again, voting yes will give him his money back. Voting no, you will have to have paid the money and walk away.
Mrs. Ashcraft?
My vote is a no.
Mr. Clark?
No.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes. Votes 2-1 against. So at this point, the
Fines.
fines are upheld. Okay?
Thank you for your time.
Sorry for the confusion, guys.
We got there.
We got there. Last item on the agenda is comments of the administration. Anything pressing? Sorry, Bill, I know you were walking out.
No.
Okay, all right.
No, I was just trying to rack my brain. We have a lot going on. So you may see the RCA signs out on 56th Street, the road construction ahead signs. We will be building the sidewalk extension along 56th Street there on the north side of 56th Street from Franklin to Boy Scout. There will also be some signal improvements going on as well. That construction should be starting within a week or so. Olco is the name of the company that will be doing the work. They were awarded the bid by NDOT because this is a federal aid project. So that project should be getting underway. There will be some minor lane restrictions during it, but nothing too major. So it will be done before school is back in session, though.
Answered every question I just had, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a quick one.
Okay.
So, and then once we get the paving projects underway, or once we get the contract in place for the paving projects, it should be, that work should be getting underway relatively soon. That contract will have a completion date of September 30th. That's what the bid called for. So that will be quick as well.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
With no further business coming before this board, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? We are adjourned.